There is a city in northern Finland that has just been named one of Europe's capitals of culture for 2026, and most Europeans have never heard of it. It sits at the edge of the Gulf of Bothnia, just south of the Arctic Circle, with 400 years of history, the world's most committed cycling culture, and a technology sector that helped build the modern mobile phone industry. It has a beach nicknamed the Riviera of the North, forests that glow under a midnight sun in July, and a winter sky that turns green with northern lights from September through March. The city is Oulu, and 2026 is the year it opens to the world. Today I'm taking you inside one of Europe's most genuinely unexpected cultural destinations, a northern Finnish city that is simultaneously one of the world's great tech hubs, one of Europe's finest cycling cities, and in 2026, one of the continent's designated capitals of culture. This is a city that has reinvented itself multiple times across 4 centuries, and 2026 is its moment to show the rest of Europe what it has built. Here's the question I want to leave with you from the start. How did a city that made its fortune selling pine tar to 18th century naval fleets end up shaping the global mobile phone industry? And what does that journey tell us about a place that has always been willing to do things differently? The answer runs through this entire video, and it reveals more about Oulu than any single attraction could. The city Europe overlooked. To understand why Oulu is surprising in 2026, you need to understand what it is, because the combination is genuinely unusual. Oulu is the 5th largest city in Finland, with a population of around 217,000, making it the largest city in all of northern Finland. It sits at the mouth of the Oulu River on the Gulf of Bothnia, in a position that has defined its entire history. Founded on 8 April 1605 by King Charles IX of Sweden, it was built at a strategic point where river trade from Finland's vast interior forests met the open sea. For the next 300 years, Oulu was defined by one product: pine tar. Harvested from the forests of inland Finland and floated down the Oulu River to the coast, pine tar was the essential material for preserving wooden sailing ships, the most important shipbuilding material of the age. By the 19th century, Oulu was the world's largest exporter of pine tar. At the height of the tar trade, ships from Britain, the Netherlands, and the Mediterranean arrived in constant rotation, and Oulu's merchants grew wealthy enough to build the grand neoclassical buildings that still stand around the market square today. What happened next is what makes Oulu interesting. Most cities that lose their economic foundation decline. Oulu rebuilt. By the second half of the 20th century, the city had identified a new direction: technology. The University of Oulu was founded in 1958 with a particular focus on electronics and information technology. Scandinavia's oldest technology park was established here in 1982. In 1984, Oulu formally declared itself a city of technology. The collaboration between the university, research institutions, the city, and most importantly Nokia, created what became known as the Oulu model, a regional innovation system that made this northern city one of the most important centers of mobile technology development in the world. Today, Oulu ranks first in Finland for research and development spending as a percentage of regional GDP. The BBC has called it the winter cycling capital of the world, not for tourism marketing, but because it's true. This is the city that is now Europe's capital of culture for 2026. The combination of industrial history, technological innovation, and Arctic nature is genuinely unlike anything in the standard European cultural tourism circuit, and that is precisely what makes it worth paying attention to. The European Capital of Culture 2026. The European Capital of Culture designation has existed since 1985, and its track record is remarkable. Cities like Glasgow, Lille, and Marseille used the title as a genuine inflection point, a moment to invest in cultural infrastructure, attract international attention, and reframe how the world sees them. Oulu's 2026 program is built around three themes that reflect the city's actual character, rather than a generic cultural tourism pitch. The first theme is Brave Hinterland. This is about the periphery, about what it means to live and create in a place that is far from the cultural centres of Europe, and what unique perspectives and traditions that distance produces. Northern Finland has communities, languages, and ways of life that have no equivalent further south, and the programme explicitly engages with them rather than presenting a sanitized version of Northern European culture. The second theme is Cool Contrasts. This is where Oulu's most powerful identity lives. The tension between Arctic wilderness and urban life, between darkness and light, between technological innovation and ancient forest, between the harshest winter conditions on the continent and a population that cycles through them without blinking. These contrasts aren't resolved in the Oulu 2026 programme. They're celebrated as the source of the city's character. The programme spans the entire year with over 500 events. The opening festival launched the year with an ice music concert featuring Norwegian pioneer Terje Isungset, a musician who builds his instruments from ice and performs them outdoors in freezing temperatures before they melt. That event alone tells you everything you need to know about the spirit of Oulu 2026. Later in the year, specific highlights include the climate clock installation opening on 13th of June, a major art installation that connects Oulu's Arctic location to the urgency of the climate conversation in ways that are visual, emotional, and scientifically grounded. The Midnight Sun Run on 4th July takes participants through Oulu's landscapes under the near-continuous light of a northern summer. A race that is less about competition and more about the extraordinary experience of running through a lit midnight landscape. The Delta Life Grand Finale on 27 to 29th August celebrates the Oulu River Delta as a living ecosystem connecting the city to the sea. And in November, the Lumo Art and Tech Festival, running from 13 to 22 November, brings together light art, sound art, and digital and media art in more than 10 venues across the city, exploring the relationship between technology and artistic expression in a city that has built its identity on precisely that intersection. The Cycling City. Before you visit Oulu, there is one fact you need to know, because it tells you more about this city's character than any number of tourist brochures. Oulu is the winter cycling capital of the world. This is not a marketing claim. The BBC documented it. Academic papers have analysed it. Around 20 to 22% of all journeys in Oulu are made by bicycle, twice the Finnish national average. Approximately 50% of Oulu's school children cycle to school, the highest proportion recorded anywhere in Finland. The city has around 900 kilometres of connected cycling and pedestrian paths, the most extensive network in the country. And crucially, these numbers hold through winter, when temperatures regularly fall to -15 or -20 degrees Celsius, and the streets are covered in snow and ice. How? Oulu maintains its cycling infrastructure through winter in the same way it maintains its roads. Snow is cleared from bike paths continuously. Paths are treated with sand and grit. Streetlights ensure visibility in the long, dark months. And Oulu cyclists use studded tyres as standard equipment from October through March. The infrastructure reflects a civic decision that cycling should be a genuine year-round transport option rather than a fair-weather activity for enthusiasts. Nature and light. Oulu's geography gives it two natural phenomena that no amount of cultural programming can replicate, and that draw visitors back year after year, regardless of what's happening in the calendar. The first is the midnight sun. Oulu sits at approximately 65 degrees north, south of the Arctic Circle, which means it does not experience the true midnight sun of Lapland. But in late June and early July, the sun barely sets. The sky remains light through the entire night, a deep amber and gold at what would be midnight, brightening again toward dawn without ever going fully dark. This creates an experience that takes time to absorb. Meals feel different when eaten at 11 p.m. in full golden light. Walks feel different when the forest is illuminated at 1 a.m. with a warmth that belongs to no conventional time of day. Sleep itself requires adaptation. Blackout curtains are standard equipment in Finnish homes, but for visitors, one late-night walk through the amber Oulu coastline is worth more than any museum visit. The Delta Life events in August, part of the Oulu 2026 program, are specifically designed around the Oulu River Delta ecosystem during these bright months, a landscape of islands, channels, and coastal wetlands where the light creates constantly shifting visual conditions and where bird life during the breeding season reaches extraordinary diversity. The second phenomenon is the Northern Lights. Oulu's position makes it one of the more accessible locations in Europe for aurora viewing. The season runs from late August through early April, with September being historically strong due to geomagnetic activity around the equinox. December and January offer the longest dark nights, around 15 hours, though cloud cover can reduce viewing opportunities in deep winter. The lights are most visible away from the city's light pollution, but even from the Nalikari coastline on a clear night with active solar conditions, the aurora is visible from within easy reach of the city centre. Nalikari itself deserves specific mention. The beach, called the Riviera of the North by Oulu locals with no apparent irony, is a long, fine sand stretch on the island of Hietasari, accessible by bicycle from the city centre in approximately 20 minutes. In summer, it offers shallow, swimmable water with views across the Gulf of Bothnia. In winter, the same beach serves ice fishers, cross-country skiers who use the frozen sea surface, and the occasional swimmer who participates in the Finnish tradition of winter swimming, a practice that the research consistently shows has measurable health benefits and that in Oulu has the specific advantage of accessible saunas to return to afterward. Since coolcation is increasingly part of how Northern Europe is being marketed to travellers escaping summer heat, it is worth being accurate about what Oulu's climate actually delivers. The honest picture is this. Oulu's average July temperature is around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius. Mediterranean destinations in the same month average 26 to 29 degrees, with daytime highs regularly reaching 32 to 35 degrees. The difference is real and significant. Oulu is typically 10 to 12 degrees cooler than the places that summer travellers most commonly choose to escape. However, northern Finland has not been immune to the broader warming pattern. Oulu has experienced heat waves in recent years, including extended periods around 30 degrees that are genuinely unusual by historical standards. Climate scientists at the World Weather Attribution Project have confirmed that intense summer heat waves in Scandinavia are now at least 10 times more likely than in a pre-industrial climate. Oulu cannot be promised as a guaranteed cool escape. What it can accurately be described as is this: significantly cooler than southern Europe on average, with a genuine probability of comfortable summer temperatures in the 15 to 20 degree range that makes outdoor exploration pleasant rather than something to be managed around midday heat. Combined with the extreme daylight of the northern summer and the entirely different quality of experience that extended Arctic light creates, Oulu offers a summer that is simply not available further south. The choice to visit it is not primarily a temperature decision. It is a decision to experience a completely different relationship between summer, light, and outdoor life. History visible, the city centre. Oulu's city centre carries its history lightly but legibly. The market square, Tori in Finnish, is the gravitational centre of daily life. The neoclassical buildings that line it were built during the peak of the tar trade wealth, and the Tori-Poliisi, the market policeman bronze statue that stands at its edge, has become a symbol of the city's self-deprecating humour. Commissioned in the 1980s and quickly adopted as Oulu's unofficial mascot, a reliable meeting point and the subject of the kind of gentle local pride that northern Finnish cities wear without performance. The market hall, built in 1901, is where Oulu's food culture is most directly visible. Fresh vendors, muiku in Finnish, small lake fish lightly floured and pan-fried until crispy, served with mashed potato, is a classic Finnish market food and a good introduction to what northern Finnish cuisine actually tastes like when it is not adjusted for international expectations. Reindeer, sold fresh, smoked, and as salami, is a genuine regional product rather than a tourist gimmick. The reindeer herding culture of the Sami people to the north is one of the oldest continuous pastoral traditions in Europe, and the meat it produces is distinctive, lean, dark, richly flavored. The Market Hall's cafe serves lohikeitto, salmon soup with potatoes, vegetables and cream, which is both an entirely normal Finnish lunch and, for most visitors, one of the better bowls of soup they will encounter in Europe. The tech soul. Oulu's technology identity is not a separate layer of the city's story. It runs through everything else. Understanding it adds a dimension to the Oulu 2026 program that is easy to miss if you encounter it only as a list of cultural events. The Oulu model, the close collaboration between the university, research institutions, technology companies, and the city itself, is something that European innovation policy has studied for decades as a template for building high-technology ecosystems outside major metropolitan centers. Nokia's development of early mobile communication technology was significantly shaped by work done in Oulu. The region currently ranks first in Finland for R&D spending as a percentage of GDP, at 5.3%. The University of Oulu has been specifically strong in electronics and wireless technology since its founding in 1958. What does this mean for a visitor? It means that the Lumo Art and Tech Festival in November is not a generic cultural event with some technology branding attached. It emerges from a city where the relationship between technology and everyday life has been actively thought about for 40 years, where the university research in wireless communication sits alongside the same civic government that maintains the world's most committed winter cycling infrastructure. The festival, exploring light art, sound art, and digital art across more than 10 venues, is the cultural expression of a city that has genuinely spent decades thinking about what technology is for. The cool contrasts theme of Oulu 2026 is most alive in this intersection, a city that operates at the technological frontier and chooses to express that identity through art, through cycling, through the protection of its Arctic natural environment, and through cultural programming that refuses to separate these things into separate categories. Here is the answer to the question about pine tar and mobile phones. Oulu's journey from 18th century tar exporter to 21st century technology hub is not a story about luck or historical accident. It is a story about a specific kind of civic character, the willingness to rebuild when the previous foundation collapses, the belief that peripheral location does not require peripheral ambition, and the practical determination to make infrastructure work in conditions that most cities would use as an excuse to do nothing. The city that maintained tar trade routes through Arctic winters built technology parks and cycling networks through those same winters. The city that stood at the edge of the known European world became one of the world's leaders in the technology that connects people across distance. The city that had to reinvent itself when pine tar became obsolete chose to reinvent itself through education, research, and collaboration rather than waiting for someone else to bring investment from outside. That is what makes Oulu's designation as European Capital of Culture 2026 genuinely meaningful rather than ceremonially appropriate. The cultural program does not celebrate a heritage that ended. It expresses a living city that has earned the right to its own confidence, a city that has always done things its own way and been quietly right about it. If you go to Oulu in 2026, and there are good reasons to go at almost any point in the year, here is the practical frame. Go in late June or early July for the midnight sun and the delta life experience of the river delta in full summer light. Go in November for the Lumo Art and Tech Festival, when the city centre becomes a canvas for light and sound installations, and the first dark of the long northern winter gives the art a context that no other city in Europe can provide. Go in winter for the northern lights, the cycling through snow, the market hall in the cold, and the profound experience of a city that treats winter not as something to be survived, but as the condition in which it most fully expresses itself. Rent a bicycle, eat in the market hall, walk to Pikisari, stand on the Nalikari beach at midnight in July, and see what the light does to the water. Which part of Oulu's story surprised you most? The tar trade history, the cycling culture, the technology identity? Tell me in the comments. I read everything and love planning these kinds of trips in more detail with people who are genuinely curious about them. If this video introduced you to a place you didn't know existed, subscribe and hit the notification bell. The whole point of this channel is finding the places that are genuinely worth the trip, but that most travel content ignores. Oulu in 2026 is exactly that kind of place.